Urgent. The Russians at the front have gone crazy. The Ukrainian armed forces threw a real drone party for the enemy. Drones are striking mercilessly. Artillery hit Putin's artery hard. The Russian fleet has resurfaced from oblivion. The new tactic collapsed right on the shore. All this and more in our episode Hell Point. They don't sleep at night and appear where the enemy feels safe. Vampires don't give the occupiers a second chance and turn their confidence to ashes. This drone is not just a piece of equipment, it's retribution. The Russians are in agony because of this bird working in the sky. It destroys positions and fortifications. After that, only death remains. What ambitious targets do our drone operators at the heart of the front line set for these legendary UAVs, whose very name the enemy fears to utter aloud? The answers to these questions are in the following report.
Plastic bottles tightly wrapped in film are the most valuable thing you can have at the front after ammunition and a first aid kit, drinking water.
We carry it to the guys at the positions, the infantry, those who are sitting right on the front line, at the very, very zero, so to speak.
To the very edge of the front line darkness, the Vampire delivers water, food, and medicine at night.
The vampires don't really sleep at night, so to speak.
But in broad daylight, this heavy bomber of the 118th Brigade drops a completely different kind of cargo on the occupiers' heads.
We lay mines, we bomb. We even flew out during the day to stop assaults. That literally happened just recently.
The drone operator with the call sign FIXIC is testing the UAV's readiness for work together with his comrades. He's always up for a joke and even has a tattoo on his arm with some tough army humor.
The grenade goes into the house first. That's how we were taught, you know? I mean, first the grenade and only then you go in.
These are shots from FIXIC's infantry past when, despite the hardships, he still joked.
Fun times. I have this feeling that someone wants to kill us. I was born in Kirovohrad, in Mykolaiv region. I grew up in Kirovohrad region. I live and work in Dnipropetrovsk region. So you could say I'm defending all the regions.
FIXIC took up the defense of the motherland at the start of the full-scale war. And for about a year now, he's been working with the Vampire, or as the occupiers have dubbed it, Baba Yaga, which they fear like fire.
If they hear it somewhere, even if you're just flying by, delivering a package, and they're sitting not far away and hear it, they start to panic, according to intercepted communications. Everything's flying. Everyone get to the sky immediately. Everyone's watching, everyone's listening, trying to see where it's headed. Now, there's a real hunt for them going on. Sometimes I'd come back home without the motors, sometimes missing two. Even that happened. They'd either shoot them up or drop a net and it would jam.
They jammed us with electronic warfare, shot us down. There were explosions, all sorts of situations.
FIXIC's comrade, a 28-year-old Kiev native with the call sign Electrician, is a drone operator and coffee enthusiast. He's also being hunted by the occupiers. For example, it can look like this when a UAV hits the enemy with a net. Whoa! And in this footage, Electrician's Mavic also brings down an enemy scout with a net.
Hey there, how are you?
He has been in the military for about half a year, joined voluntarily, and now scouts for large-scale targets for the Vampire. This is how in combat he personally deactivates the Liberator Wanderers.
The target was hit.
Now drone operators of the 118th Mechanized Brigade say that the enemy is betting on light and fast vehicles for a rapid breakthrough.
There are a lot of them now. I mean, there are a lot of them driving around, motorcycles, buggies, ATVs. Sometimes they even drive in with cars. We dropped on those too, and there were hits as well.
And FIXIC, the heavy drone operator who is passionate about his work, has long dreamed of taking out a more significant target.
There was a situation like this. Once a Sonsepyok was leaving Novoprokopivka, and at that time we could still reach there. That's probably the one I'd really like to hit. I love my job. I mean, I really enjoy it. I get satisfaction from this, and it's not hard for me. I don't get tired when you enjoy what you're doing.
The 118th Brigade soldiers are raising funds for electronic warfare gear, asking anyone who cares to help. Andriy Pocher, Artem Dezhenkov, Vikna, STB, United News.
Here we go. Europe was shocked by the decision. New weaponry is entering the arena. These missiles will tear through the sky, and shells for the deadliest systems will be produced day and night. The Russian army has crouched down. This could all fly right at her. Has the joint European arms enterprise really set its sights on the Kremlin? We'll tell you all about it in the following report.
Ukraine is defending itself against the Russian Federation. Israel and Taiwan are in need of American weaponry. Taiwan is arming itself due to threats from China, while Israel is conducting a major operation after the Hamas attack. Because of the scale of threats around the world, the United States is running low on high-precision weaponry.
If you look at all the stocks of American arms manufacturers after Munich, Some of them dropped by as much as 80% in just a month. Look at the shares of Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, or other major companies, some of the largest manufacturers in the world. They all dropped after Munich, realizing that there is no clarity and, well, no clear signals from the administration regarding procurement. So on our side, they will also get involved.
Rheinmetall is ramping up gunpowder production. Rheinmetall plans to repurpose 2 of its factories that currently produce automotive parts. In Germany, a railway plant will be converted to produce components for the main battle tanks Leopard 2 and the infantry fighting vehicles Puma.
We have no interest in Poland, in Latvia, or anywhere else. Why would we need that? We simply have no interest, only threats.
Due to the threat from Putin's Russia, Europe has shifted to a war footing.
If we already have HIMARS systems deployed, then we will definitely be buying American missiles. If most of our systems are European, of course, but the problem is that, for example, Europe has never produced such a quantity of air defense systems.
To reduce dependence on the United States and speed up deliveries, one of the world's leading manufacturers of munitions, land systems, and defense electronics, as well as the global defense technology and scientific innovation company Rheinmetall, together with Lockheed Martin, have signed a memorandum of understanding. The German arms concern Rheinmetall and the American Defense Corporation Lockheed Martin have decided to create a joint venture for missile production in Europe.
Sometimes you have to wait 10 years to get missiles from America. That's far too long. That's why both partners wanted to create a European Missile Competence Center.
Lockheed Martin has confirmed that it is actively cooperating with European allies to meet global demand for American munitions and precision strike systems.
This partnership reflects our commitment to advancing transatlantic security and providing our allies with proven state-of-the-art capabilities. It's a step toward helping our European clients fulfill their commitments to NATO. By combining Rheinmetall's expertise with Lockheed Martin's advanced missile technologies, we are creating a strong foundation for ever-evolving security needs. This partnership will strengthen the defense industry and create jobs in both the United States and Europe.
Lockheed Martin has been a partner of German industry for over 50 years and continues to develop these partnerships. Rheinmetall will hold 60% in the joint venture. Special emphasis will be placed on the production of long-range missiles, which are needed by Ukraine and European countries.
They want to launch basically a policy of new industrialization, meaning weapons production, to open up what was previously closed.
After this collaboration, there definitely won't be any problems with ammunition. The plant will produce powerful ATA-CMS and GMLRS shells for the HIMARS and M270 MLRS multiple launch rocket systems. Lockheed Martin has decided to stop producing ATACMS in America and is starting to manufacture the newer PRSM. In connection with this, there is discussion about the possibility of fulfilling American contracts at the new plant. They also plan to produce Hellfire missiles for drones and aircraft. Their range is the greatest among similar weapons in the United States. In Europe, there are plans to produce PAC-3 missiles for the Patriot air defense systems.
We all understand that selling weapons is a matter of politics. I always say that it's easy to buy a rebel kit, a pistol, a machine gun, an assault rifle, a grenade launcher, but there are serious things like air defense systems.
Things like intelligence data, for example, or things like aircraft. That's already politics. That's no longer just about weapons.
After 3 years of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, it has become clear that it is precisely these missiles that are lacking to hold the defense on the ground. The capacity of the new enterprise in Europe will be quickly filled thanks to orders from Ukraine, which has a high demand for Patriot missiles.
Europe does not currently have the capacity to fully supply us with its own production, so that we could stop purchasing weapons from the United States.
The intellectual property rights in this case will belong to the European side. The production line will be ready in 12 to 13 months. Engine production will begin in 2026 and missile production in 2027. The plant capacity is up to 10,000 missiles and the same number of rocket engines per year.
Russia has simply never threatened anyone.
Despite the fact that Ukraine is making purchases in the US and the European Union, the development of the Ukrainian defense industry is not standing still and has become a national idea. The Ministry of Defense previously noted that every second piece of ammunition at the front is produced in Ukraine.
We manufacture barrels, cannons, self-propelled artillery, and we produce ammunition. But the question is the quality of all this. We remember the recent scandals with the mines, and those concerns were not unfounded. There are also issues with quantities, timing, and with more specialized types of equipment.
Europe's need for ammunition will only continue to grow, and Ukraine, with its experience in combat against the aggressor, will be able to integrate its military-industrial complex into the European defense industry.
People's drones in action. They are breaking up the occupiers' assaults in the Kharkiv direction. The fierce and fearless eyes of the army are hunting down the brazen invaders. There is no way back. FPVs and vampires soar at the enemy like crows, incinerating them. All the plans of the Russian generals have fallen apart. Our fighters do not stop. How do they manage to send the birds precisely to the target every time? We'll tell you about it in just a moment. In these shots, the Russians are trying to storm positions in the Lipetsk direction. They lost everything they were riding on: 6 armored vehicles, 2 cars, 2 tanks and a cannon. The occupiers rarely try to break through with heavy equipment because our reconnaissance drones instantly detect them and destroy them with the help of FPVs and vampires. Sheva and Kent work specifically with FPVs. They're a bit tired after a combat mission, but they don't miss the chance to keep training. Today they've divided the duties as follows. Sheva is the pilot, and Kent is the navigator and the one who loads the equipment. It's more reliable for both the ammo and when attaching the battery, so it's better to use zip ties. For training, they took the same drones they use in the field, simple and reliable, without any extra features. Just the regular so-called people's drones, if you can call them that, on TAV-5. Their main feature is that these are kamikaze drones. They only fly one way to strike a target, usually enemy vehicles or soldiers. It's possible to destroy a tank, but you'd have to be really lucky. You have to hit exactly the right spot. But in general, I think it can stop heavy equipment. In just a few minutes, the drone is ready for action. We connect the drone. While the pilot is wearing the goggles, the navigator monitors the situation around them. On these flights, pilots get used to the equipment, practice maneuvers and learn to fly in any conditions. Right now, the weather isn't great. There's strong wind and it's raining. But for an experienced operator, that's not an obstacle, and the training goes on. The soldiers say that in the past couple of months, the number of enemy drones on the front line has increased several times over. The most dangerous ones are those on fiber optics, lying in ambush. That is, the drone stays in ambush for 3 or 4 hours somewhere at the side of the road or near a populated area where our vehicles might pass, and in this way, they set up ambushes and strike our equipment. Electronic warfare doesn't affect these drones.
You have to carefully find their positions and then destroy the pilots themselves. Exactly. That's the only way to counter fiber optics.
Right now, the drone operators from Kharkiv don't have enough batteries to work effectively. You can help raise funds for them by using the QR code you see on the screen now. If not us, then who? You see, no one wants to change us, so we have to do it ourselves.
Because this is our country, and I believe that everyone should stand up to defend it.
From Kharkiv region, Orina Antoniuk, Oleksiy Juchkov. We are Ukraine, Marathon, United News.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
Russia's Phantom fleet is no longer hiding. An unexpected maneuver in the Baltic Sea. Russia is once again playing on the brink of a major war. A ship that had long shown no signs of life suddenly appeared in a strategically important area. And this is not a drill. Is the Kremlin provoking a new escalation? And most importantly, how did it all end? All the details in the report. Watch right now.
The Estonians order it to stop. The tanker keeps going, This is a warning. This is an Estonian warship. This is an Estonian warship. This is an Estonian warship. The local navy repeats the demand. Your request is denied. Follow my instructions. Follow my instructions. But the vessel, flying the flag of Gabon and with a Russian-speaking crew, continues heading toward Russia. To stop the tanker, the Estonian Navy deploys its boats and aircraft. The Russians scramble a combat aircraft.
This fighter jet violated NATO airspace for almost a minute. This is something new.
We need to understand that Russia has now officially tied itself to the Shadow Fleet.
When the vessel entered the economic zone of the Baltic country, Estonia tried to stop the ship for inspection and to determine whether it posed a threat. Valtios, Euroja, Zakarpattia.
With every step, the likelihood of a serious escalation in the Baltic Sea increases. That is why even those agencies that have the authority to take certain actions must always carefully assess the possible consequences.
Because of the Russian fighter jet, NATO military aircraft from the air policing units in the Baltic countries also took to the skies. But these Portuguese fighter jets from the air base in northern Lithuania usually do not attack. They only observe.
This is probably the same logic of not escalating, which in my opinion is a flawed paradigm in relations with Russia.
Turkey demonstrated in 2015 how to put Russia in its place. A Russian fighter jet also violated its airspace and the Turks simply shot it down. The Russians responded only with a diplomatic spat.
The provocations are absolutely real. They will actually happen with real planes, real fighter jets, real ships, and the lives of real people at stake.
The Latvian Ministry of Foreign Affairs reported that about 84% of all Russian crude oil exports pass through the Baltic Sea. That's tens of billions of dollars a year.
Such an action from Russia was to be expected. They would try to protect or somehow guard their shadow fleet, which sails under the flags of various countries. This is probably the first step.
Russia's shadow fleet consists of up to 1,000 tankers, about 400 of which operate daily in the Baltic Sea and help the Russian Federation fill its military budget.
The money is coming in, business is running. Well, basically, the bad thing is that this money is being used for the war against Ukraine and to destabilize the situation in Europe.
The European Union acknowledges that Russia poses a threat to all the countries in the Baltic Sea region. The Shadow Fleet is suspected of sabotage on underwater pipelines and cables. Because of this, increased monitoring and further sanctions are being announced. And the incident off the coast of Estonia went unpunished for the Russians. The tanker did not comply with the demands. The Estonians only observed and escorted it until the vessel entered Russian waters. Rostislav Sisoyev, We Are Ukraine, Marathon United News.
Putin's mercenaries thought they could slip through on buggies and ATVs, but ran into a barrage of fire from the Ukrainian armed forces. 50 occupiers disappeared within minutes. The Ukrainian armed forces mowed them down in no time. The enemy's bold tactic was completely crushed. They got a taste of birch porridge. This is not just a rout, it's a public humiliation of the Russian army. The internet is buzzing with shocking footage. Watch the video you simply can't miss in just a moment.
In this footage, the occupiers are driving into combat positions on motorcycles and buggies. This is a relatively new but already widespread tactic of the enemy, our defenders say. In this way, the enemy tries to gain an advantage in speed and maneuverability, confuse drone operators and increase the expenditure of weapons.
When 30 or 20 men come in on a single vehicle, we destroy that one vehicle and immediately take out, say, 30 men at once. Whoever managed to scatter, well, they took care of the rest. But when they come in one by one or in pairs on motorcycles and they ride in these sort of columns, well, not really columns, sometimes 5 or 6 motorcycles at once, they scatter. That is, in one sortie you might be able to destroy one vehicle, but while you're reloading for the next, the others have already scattered into the tree lines. This is, well, the enemy's ingenuity, they make use of it. It's a kind of priority.
A fighter from the Heavenly Retribution Unmanned Systems Battalion of the 54th Separate Mechanized Brigade, which is currently operating in Donetsk region, shares how to stop enemy assaults. Before the war, he was a lawyer. After the start of the full-scale invasion, he joined the armed forces of Ukraine. He operated Vampire night drones. Now he mainly works with FPV drones.
You prepare each drone individually, basically customizing it for yourself, flashing the firmware, setting it up so it can fly. There's a ton of pre-flight work. You actually fly it yourself, so during the day you see everything, as they say, from a first-person perspective. That is, when you fly up to the enemy, to some piece of equipment, you see everything. Well, when the video is good, not glitching, with no interference, you can even see his last moments. And that, well, is really satisfying.
Our interviewee does not hide the fact that the enemy currently has the advantage both in terms of equipment and the number of soldiers. Under such conditions, positions can only be held through the effective work of drone operators.
During one of the most recent assaults, when I was at the position, not a single enemy landing party, there were about 50 to 60 of them that landed, came in, left. I counted somewhere around 50 to 60 people in our direction. We eliminated all 50 to 60 of them. Not a single shot was fired by our infantry, specifically from small arms. That is, we simply didn't let them get close to our infantry. The infantry didn't even have to reach for their rifles.
The soldier says that the footage we see in news reports, enemy equipment exploding, fighters destroying enemy headquarters and ammunition depots, is actually the result of careful planning and the high-quality work of usually several drone operator crews. And if there aren't enough strike kits, some missions may end up not being completed at all.
Unfortunately, well, FPV kamikaze drones have the advantage of being more maneuverable, but compared to night drones, we have the drawback that we can't carry as much explosive payload. It's 1 kilo to 1.5 kilos, and 1 kilo to 1.5 kilos, well, that's not enough to destroy equipment. Even if it's a shaped charge, you still need to finish it off with another hit or two. You realize that if you only have 20 or 30 of them at your position, you try not to go after non-priority targets. If you already have 30 or 40 at your position, you understand that you can use about 10 drones to, say, dig out a foxhole with pilots or infantry, or to destroy some enemy equipment.
A BRO fighter emphasizes that the effectiveness of the Ukrainian army's operations directly depends on the quantity and quality of equipment and drones, and there is always a need for them at the front. Veronika Vidnitska, Podrobici, Inter-TV channel Marathon, United News.
The Caesar self-propelled howitzer, thunder in the hands of the Ukrainian armed forces, strikes from the shadows hitting the occupiers directly. Russian generals have sounded the alarm. This deadly weapon takes out mercenaries without mercy. At this rate, there will be no one left to fight. Ukrainian defenders are openly delighted. The French artillery system operates quickly, accurately, and relentlessly. So what is the secret behind the legendary Caesar? You'll hear exclusive details right now.
These self-propelled artillery units are among the best in the world. They are maneuverable, automated, rapid-firing, and accurate.
A big plus is the wheelbase, because, well, thanks to this, it's also highly maneuverable. Then there's the high rate of fire and the ability to use navigation equipment, which in turn allows you to reduce the time needed to take up a firing position to just a few minutes.
We're talking about the French Caesar self-propelled howitzers, which have become an integral part of the Ukrainian armed forces since 2022. And Ukrainian soldiers rate its effectiveness extremely highly.
The firing range allows us to strike enemy artillery at any distance from the front line, wherever it may be strategically and effectively positioned or located.
If we're talking specifically about self-propelled howitzers, this is the best we've been given.
And now there will be several times more of them. France has promised to deliver to Ukraine all Caesar self-propelled howitzers that will be produced in 2025. And that's about twice as many as have been delivered throughout the entire full-scale war. After all, the plan is for France to produce 12 systems per month, which means that over the course of a year, 144 self-propelled howitzers will be made, and all of them will go to Ukraine.
We can recall that France was the first to provide us with wheeled tanks, the AMX, and that France has always advocated for global support for Ukraine. And while other countries were still hesitating, we were already receiving French weapons and French ammunition, as well as French equipment for conducting combat operations. So this is quite a logical step, a completely understandable step, unexpectedly pleasant, but overall not very surprising.
But such a number of Caesars also means a huge sum for them. One French self-propelled artillery unit costs about 5 million euros. 144 will cost 720 million euros. I don't even want to calculate that in hryvnias. So who will pay for it?
Various sources of funding are currently being used to pay for these self-propelled artillery units, including partially from frozen or seized Russian assets and partially from other NATO countries. The German foreign minister, among others, has spoken about this repeatedly. And the presidential advisor, former Minister Alexander Kamishin, has also said that we will attract funds from foreign investors specifically to pay for weapons that will be produced both for Ukraine and within Ukraine itself, because we clearly do not have enough of our own resources.
We've sorted out the money issue. Now it's time to talk about something positive. Besides the obvious advantage of the self-propelled artillery systems themselves, this transfer could also mean that Europe has started to take the Russian threat seriously, realizing that if Ukraine does not hold out, the EU will be Putin's next target.
Deliveries to the armed forces of Ukraine will continue in 2025 and possibly even into 2026. Now, this clearly shows that this is the driving force behind all other contracts, and that the needs of the Ukrainian armed forces are being prioritized above all. Again, this demonstrates just how seriously both France and Europe as a whole are taking the Russian threat, as is evident from the information about sanction risks, not just requirements, but a real attitude toward the Russian threat. In other words, the European Union is slowly waking up, and maybe not even that slowly.
And this is extremely important news. It would have been better if it happened earlier, not in the 4th year of the full-scale war. But better late than never. The only question now is when the new Caesars will arrive. Will they be delivered monthly or all at once at the end of 2025 or at the beginning of 2026? There is still no answer to this question. But is it even really necessary? It's probably better to keep such sensitive information strictly confidential and undisclosed so that the occupiers can fully experience the whole range of emotions, so to speak, from Paris with love, or see the Caesar and die.
That's all for today. This was me, Darina Hutsakalo. Even more hellish news from the front in our next episode. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button.